Hello and welcome to another episode of Mystery Theater. Psych! Welcome to another episode of Mr. Owen's Lectures! Thanks for joining me today, kids. Today we're going to go over the causes of imperialism, and the first question that you probably asked yourself is, what in the wide world of sports is imperialism? I got you. Imperialism is the policy of extending a nation's authority by territorial acquisition or by the establishment of economic and political control. I'll repeat that again. It's the policy of extending a nation's authority by territorial acquisition or by the establishment of economic and political control. I know. That was a mouthful. So what does it mean in layman's terms? Let me give you something a little easier to read. It's when one country controls the government and economy of another. That's it. That's what imperialism is. So why would a country want to control the government and economy of another? It's a fair question to ask. Well, the reason has to do with the Industrial Revolution. Basically, all these Western European countries are going to start building and getting factories going, and they're going to need raw materials and things like that to keep supplying their factories. And that's going to start this whole movement. So in the imperialism that goes on in the 1800s and into the 1900s is going to begin in Western Europe. And in fact, the time period known as the age of imperialism is going to be from 1850 to 1914 and is going to end with World War I beginning in 1914. And all of this is going to lead up to World War I. The Industrial Revolution, or industrialization as it's also known as, is going to be spearheaded by the British. They're going to be one of the leaders of this. And some examples of this will be the British colonialization of Australia and the British colonialization of India, amongst many, many others. The apex of this whole thing, or the biggest event that happens in imperialism, is going to be what's called the Scramble for Africa. And I'm even going to devote a whole video to that next. The Scramble for Africa is basically when Europe is going to invade Africa and they're going to cut up Africa like a piece of pie. And they're going to steal its resources, they're going to take its coal, they're going to take its rubber, they're going to take its diamonds, anything that they can get your hands on, they're going to take. And they're going to use these natural resources to then take back to Europe and to fuel their factories to build goods and then trade goods all over the world and get rich and make a ton of money. You're probably wondering, well, why didn't Europe invade Africa earlier? Well, hundreds of years prior, Africa and Europe were on similar trajectories technology-wise, and one wasn't ahead of the other. The other main reason was tropical diseases were rampant in Africa, and if you lived in Africa, you built up immunity to these things. That's a word that you've probably heard, immunity. That's where you're exposed to a disease or a sickness so that your body's used to it. You see, your body works almost like a computer. When your body gets exposed to a virus, and it fights off that virus, it then stores off those antibodies and the things that it used to fight that virus, almost like a computer would store something in your brain. So the next time it gets that virus or it gets that bug, it gets that sickness, it's got that kind of that computer stored, and it uses that antibody, that program to fight off that virus. So if you lived in Africa and you got bit by a bug or whatever and it had malaria, you didn't just drop dead. But when Europeans would go into Africa and get bit by, let's say, a mosquito, right? You've been bit by mosquitoes. It's awful. You get bit. Ow, mosquito. Well, back then you got bit by a mosquito. Oh, ow, I'm dead. So totally different. You didn't want to get malaria. You didn't want to get a tropical disease. So you avoided it. Well, as time goes on and we get into the 1850s, vaccines and other medicines like quinines and things like that become available and are able to treat malaria and other things like that. So then for the first time in history, Europeans are able to go in there in mass quantities and start to take large portions of Africa. Africa also had a couple of things that were really working against it. And like I said, I'm going to talk more about this in the next video. But one of the biggest things is geographically. Africa is huge. And in fact, you know what it's time for? Fun fact! What was that, Mr. Owen? It's time for a fun fact! That's right, it's time for a fun fact. Africa is freaking large. How big is Africa? It's freaking large. Africa is not a country. Africa is a continent. Most maps cannot fit Africa or everything on the map. You see, the earth is round, so they print maps flat. So when they print a map, they have to distort certain things, and usually Africa is distorted. Take a look at this image right now. Look at all the countries that fit into Africa. That is how large Africa is. How large is it? It's freaking huge. It's a big, giant continent, not a country. In fact, currently there's over 50 countries that are inside of Africa, and I tried to sit down and name them all, and I got to 34, couldn't name the rest of them. My point is, it's a big, giant continent with a whole lot of countries in it, okay? And that geography is actually going to harm Africa during this time period because it's going to prevent Africa from uniting and having one giant central government or one giant central army. And why is it so divided? Well, geographically, there's huge differences. You've got areas of extreme desert. You've got areas of extreme jungle. You've got savannas. You've got plains. You've got grasslands. You've got mountains. You've got all sorts of things that divide up Africa geographically and prevent one giant country from taking over all of Africa. So when Europe goes in, they're going to take little tiny pieces of Africa and kind of spread it amongst themselves. And like I said, they're going to take all their resources and use it for themselves. Okay? So a couple of different ways that countries like Australia, like India, like different parts of Africa fall into the mix of imperialism. One is they can be annexed. Annexed just means they become a part of the empire. Empire takes it, we're annexing you, and now you're a part of our empire. The other way is they can do a proctorate. And what is a proctorate? That is where the local government of that country is left intact and the foreign power will be actually in control. So if the British move into a country and they leave the government intact, but they really oversee it, that would be an example of a proctorate. Annexing just means that the empire is going to take it over. Okay? Now, there are some countries that fight back big time. In Africa, Ethiopia is going to fight off the Italians, and they are going to resist imperialism, and they are going to say, we do not want you in our country. China at first is going to start getting cut up like Africa, and Europe's going to see big dollar signs when they go into China, and they're going to start trying to divide it up, and they're going to start importing a drug known as opium. Opium is what they can make heroin out of and things like that, but back then they would smoke opium, and they would start to bring it into China, and it got so bad that a lot of the Chinese got addicted to opium, and it got worse and worse and worse to a point that the Chinese literally had to fight a thing called the Opium Wars, and they literally had to fight the British and other countries out of China and say, we don't want you here. You're turning us into a bunch of drug addicts. This is nuts. You're stealing all our supplies. This is bad. Get out. And so they're going to kick these countries out. Now, why are the Western European countries able to take over so many countries around the world? Okay, well, first of all, they had more powerful weapons. Guns versus spears, the gun is usually always going to win. So why did Western Europe have so many guns? Well, because before this, if you look at like the 15 and 1600s, China and India were dominating the world with trade, and they had far better technology and far better goods and things to trade. Europe had nothing to trade. So what did Europe do? They made guns, and they were able to make guns very well. Why were they able to make guns? Fun fact! What time is it? It's time for a fun fact! Europe actually got a jump in guns. Gunpowder actually comes from the Chinese. But Europe was able to make guns because they had been making church bells in molds with metal for a long period of time. And if you look at early renderings of guns, they actually resemble church bells. And that's actually how Europe's going to get a jump on making guns, is because they were very good at making church bells. And if you look at the front end of a gun, like these older models that I'm showing you pictures of right now, it's really just a different version of a church bell. Crazy, right? Some other reasons that Europe is going to get a jump on this and why imperialism is such a big deal. They want to take the colonial wealth. They want to take these colonies, they want to take them over, and they want to take their raw materials. There was this whole mentality in Europe that they were going to run out of raw materials and that their factories weren't going to have enough stuff. So they kept getting more and more stuff. They would go to colonies, take their wood, take their iron, take anything that they could, and they'd take it back and they'd sell it. They also used it as an opportunity to spread Christianity. It was an easy sell to people in their countries to say, hey, we're not only going to take their stuff, we're going to do them a favor and we're going to spread their religion, or our religion, Christianity. And that's how they sold a lot of their citizens on doing this. And again, the need for raw materials, I can't stress that enough. That was really the whole point of this, was to take their materials and to spread religion. Okay, and the largest of these, the country that's going to do the best with this is going to be the British. They are going to form the largest empire that's ever existed. Now, there's been larger contiguous empires, which means connected, but the British, and look at this map, the British over the period up until 1914 are going to have the largest empire ever created, and it's insane how large it was. I can show you different maps here of the British and how big it is at different points in different areas they reached. Um, it's just insane. The reason the British are going to be able to do this is because they controlled resources and they controlled trade. They're going to have the best navy in the world. They're going to be the most technologically advanced country. They're going to have a giant merchant fleet. A merchant fleet is the boats they use to trade, not military vessels. So they have a huge merchant fleet. They're going to be a leader in international trade, a lot of because they have colonies all over the world. They're also going to work with other European countries and to ensure that they control the Suez Canal. Why is the Suez Canal important? Look at this map. The Suez Canal, where it's located, is going to connect the Middle East to Asia. It is a big, big deal. If someone tomorrow were to block the Suez Canal, World War III would break out. I'm not even kidding you. It's a very, very, very important canal. It's very important even today to trade. So you're probably thinking, well, this is awful, Mr. Owen. Well, there are some positives to imperialism when countries occupy, and there are a lot of negatives. So what would it look like, a conversation between two countries? Well, let me do a little acting for you, and I will show you the perspective as if a British person were trying to convince an Indian person of imperialism, because the British did occupy India for a long time. It was known as the British Raj. So check this out. So, hello. Yes, so we really like your country. I mean, we really, really like it. You've got spices, you've got beautiful pottery, you've got all these nice clothes. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take all of your stuff, we're going to take it back to merry old England, we're going to put it in our factories, we're going to turn it into other things, and then we're going to bring it back to you, and we're going to sell it to you for more money. How does that sound to you? That does not sound good at all. I do not want you here in our country. I mean, I thank you, but we have a long storied history in India, and we really do not need you to be here. No, but I think you do. And like I said, we're very fond of your country. So we started out, kind of with some businesses here. But now we have so many businesses, we really can take over your country, and your leaders weren't very good. We'll provide you with much better leadership, okay? No, I'm not okay with that. We've had a long storied history, thousands of years. We will be okay, I promise you. No, but there's going to be some really good things that we're going to do, okay? We're going to build railroads throughout your country. They're going to be great, okay? You can get all around. We're going to build schools. We're going to build hospitals. We're going to do some great things for you. No, yes, I understand that, and I would appreciate railroads and schools and hospitals. That's all great and fine. But to be honest with you, I feel it's more like you want railroads to transfer the goods that you're going to be stealing from us, and the schools and hospitals are going to be more from all the people that you're going to bring from England, not really for the benefit of the people of India, which is what I'm about. Okay, well, on another plus side, we're going to bring you Christianity. We're going to save you. You guys will be able to go to heaven. It's going to be a beautiful thing. Like, we're going to bring you this amazing religion. Yes, we have a storied history. In fact, we have the oldest religion in the world. We are Hindus in India, and we do not need Christianity. Predominantly a Hindu country, we do not need your religion. Thank you, but no thank you. We are very set here, and we do not want you here. Okay, well, like I said before, you don't really have a choice. So we're going to take over your country, and we're going to provide you with some great stuff. You're going to love it. No, I'm not going to love it, and all the stuff you're going to bring is not going to be worth the hassle of losing our freedom. Okay, so please get out. No, we're going to stay for a long time. What if we help you out in World War One? What if we fight for your country? Would you give us freedom then? I'll consider it. All right, I'll think it over. That would be a great thing if you could help us and lose, a couple million people. It'd be all right. Maybe we'll give you freedom. Okay, so you didn't give us our freedom after World War One. How about after World War Two? We help you in that one too. Maybe then we get freedom. I'll think about it. I'll think about it. So basically, that would be how the conversation would go, but it did not go well. India is going to be occupied for Great Britain for a long period of time, known as the British Raj. Eventually, they would get their independence in the late 1940s, thanks to a man named Gandhi. If you ever heard that name, Mahatma Gandhi is one of the guys that's going to lead a peaceful protest, and he's going to get India freedom from Great Britain. Unfortunately, India is going to split into two countries, which will become Pakistan and India. Pakistan's predominantly Muslim, and India is predominantly Hindu. But Gandhi's peaceful protests are going to go on to inspire Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, and many, many, many other people that are seeking out movements and changes in their country. That is imperialism in a nutshell. This is me in a nutshell. Help, I'm in a giant nutshell. How did I get into this giant nutshell? Get me out of this nutshell! Ah! All right, I hope you learned something today, people. Mr. Owens out. Have a great day.